Hello, good afternoon, everybody. This is Colin Williams of Toniq Ltd. And Colin, please tell us in your own words, what do you actually do and how long you've been doing it for?
Okay, so we're a specialist design and development company. We started probably 20 years ago, but we started as a small niche vehicle manufacturer. Took a design that I did way back at university and actually took it through to production and put it into production. But quickly learned that those skills that we learned through doing that is actually transferable into other people's projects. So we're structured to help bring products to market, anything from skateboards to sports cars and armored vehicles. So,
yeah. Wow. That's great there. And I will ask that question, why Toniq? That's such a great name. So where did that come from? What inspired you really to name your company Toniq?
Okay, so that all started with the car that I was telling you about that we started the company with. It was should we say that the car was designed to enter a stale market is a good way to word it, I think. And when we were trying to name the car and the product, it was all about, well, what does it stand for? And it stands to refresh, energize, and invigorate. So yeah, so it was entering a market that's quite stale. We were intending to refresh, energize, and invigorate that market. So that's what Toniq stands for, and it's kind of carried right the way through.
Yeah, I like that meaning as well, and I like the name. I like to know the names of of these companies and what inspired you to name that name Toniq.
Yeah,
great, love that. Thank you very much for calling.
Yeah. It wasn't because we like drinking tonic.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. But I was gonna say, you've been in business for a while now, and obviously we have seen the landscape of business landscapes change, in so many different ways over the last 20 years. And one of the ways that how the landscape would change in the business sector is obviously what happened with the global pandemic with COVID-19, and no one was immune from that in some ways. So for yourself, what was the impact on COVID-19 on your business, and more importantly, what kind of changes you have to make with that as well to overcome that?
Yeah, so when, like you say, nobody was expecting COVID-19 to happen, so it kind of hit us like a freight train, and it was just kind of like, well, there was a lot of head scratching. It's like, well, what the heck do we do here? Well, the answer was not very much. We couldn't do anything to start with, could we? Because it was just like, until we knew what we were dealing with. So like in all situations, I guess, we made changes in an attempt to make the best of a bad situation. We focused during that period more on R&D. Okay. So we, kind of production, any kind of sort of like one-to-one work had to stop. So it was all sort of R&D. So we were like, okay, well, if we can't work, then what can we do? And that's when we had our greatest results with working with natural fiber composites. So as a company, we started to take responsibility for our own production work. So we produce a lot of stuff in glass fiber, reinforced plastics, and carbons, aramids, and things like that. And it's a very dirty process. It's not clean. So from a car manufacturer point of view, our niche vehicles, we were met with government standards where they sort of said, in 20 years, no more combustion engines. Well, we're 10 years away, less than 10 years away from that now.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so by that time, I'm guessing there'll be an abundance of electric options or another option for me to sort of have a look at that I can retrofit into the cars. But what about the bodywork? What about what dresses these vehicles? Nobody seems to be sort of paying attention to that. So we started to have a look into how we might be able to manipulate natural fibers, so plants and grass and all sorts of stuff into a composite that we can actually use to build panel work. And that's what we were doing or investigating with one of our customers throughout the pandemic.
Wow. Wow. And I guess, you know what, a question I asked you on the back of that now is that what are some of the actions you've taken back then, I guess, when COVID took place, especially in R&D, as you have pointed out, are those some of the same actions that exist in your company today?
Well, yeah, I mean, we always try to focus on R&D, because if you're not as a design company, we're a specialist design company, so we're always researching and designing and developing and trying to come up with new ways to do things. Every single time we have a product that we need to try and work out how to bring it to market, there's always R&D involved with it. So so that's something that's stuck with the nature of our business anyway. I think what really changed coming out of the other side of COVID-19 was that we tend to work remotely more, and we use it to a greater effect. And the biggest takeaway that will remain indefinitely is that our customers don't need to be on our doorstep. They don't have to be on our doorstep to be able to benefit from working with us. We can work remotely more, and we can have an interview like you and I are doing right now. We can discuss design projects over a Zoom call, yeah, just as much as we're sat in a boardroom, we can do that from here. So it really does open up more of the country, and possibly even other countries, to us. So that's kind of cool.
That is quite cool. It is very much. Now you talk about customers. So what is your best customer?
Okay, so who's my best? No, right, I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's not. I don't think the answer there is who. I think the answer is actually there is no right or wrong customer, provided we're looking. The project we're looking at is a part or a product. So anyone who has a project where they're unsure how to design it or bring it to fruition, we can be involved at any stage. So help with the design, help with the development of the product, help with the tooling, help with the manufacturing process. We can get involved at any stage. So our big push at the moment, like I mentioned before, was with the natural fiber composites. More and more business need to look towards more responsible manufacture and cleaner manufacture, and sort of like really cleaning up the processes that are involved going forwards as well. And the process that we're using to produce the NFCs is far cleaner than the equivalent of what we're using right now. So we can help them achieve an awful lot of reducing carbon footprint, potentially lowering part costs, and even increasing productivity. That would be what we could do for our best customers.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. And you know what? And that's great. I mean, it seems like you're taking away to get some great takeaways from your experience being as a business leader, and especially going through the challenges that you faced in the past and going forward. And also say, what is your biggest learning? I mean, you spoke about that you could work remotely now, but what is your biggest learning since you've been a business leader? Since
I've been a business owner, I think it goes right back more to a core, isn't it? It's not really what I've learned recently. It's what I've learned over the entire period of the last 20 odd years. So I think that the one takeaway is that the focus of yourself and the company has to be driven by your own direction. We all talk about goals, but it's so easy to be swayed from a goal. So somebody comes up with something and it kind of deviates off your path, and it's like, well, actually, it'd be kind of cool. Let's investigate it. But really, it's not really what you're supposed to be doing, but you kind of want to do it because it excites you. And as a designer, I'm always chasing things that are cool and things that excite me. But that's okay, provided that, it's all sort of like tying back to where I want the vision of the company to go. So, one of the things I would say is don't be swayed from your goals. So the bends in the roads, yes, stick to those, but always keep focused on where you're going. Sometimes things happen that force you to reassess your goals. We've done it many times throughout the last 20 years. We've reassessed, well, what are we as a company? Who are we? What are we doing? You know, I just talked to you about a big push with natural fiber composites. You know, we like to be able to provide services for people, but now it's not just about a design and development services. It's about, well, actually, how can we help you to clean up your production process as well?
Yeah.
So as a business, we have evolved massively over those 20 years. Sometimes it happens too late. So, you know, there might, you know, you're forced to make a change in direction,
Yeah.
because it's always nice to be able to say, oh yeah, I know, I changed just at the right time so that we didn't lose any money. No, that rarely happens. What usually happens is things tail off and you've got a problem and you're like, well, how do we fix this? What have we got that we can change and adapt to that will fix this problem? So yeah, it's nice to hit it before the curve lowers, but quite often it's when there's a dip that you actually make the changes. But you know, the damage is done, reassess, adjust, move on.
Hey, come on, that's it. And you know, it said move it on, and I think move it on is a great way, just going to the next stage. And now, right now in 2023, I mean, what would you say is your biggest challenges for you as a business owner now, and what are you doing about that to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so you know, everyone doesn't like to talk about the B word, Brexit.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are people out there that believe that there's good and bad reasons for Brexit, and I think that actually one of the things as an R&D company, or anybody who's in R&D, will sit there and say to you, the money that you've got to help you to be innovative is a big part of how a design and development company exists. That help is fundamental to actually breeding creativity. So that was a bit difficult with that money sort of like slowly drying up. But you know, I think the biggest thing to remember is long before there was the European funding, Britain was still a massive innovating country. So you know, especially in Cornwall, actually, if you look back through history, the amount of innovators that sort of started a lot of industrial stuff, like, you know, the steam power and the mining and what was done in mining and things like that for a long time. Cornwall has been at the forefront of pioneering. So, you know, I'd like to be able to stand there, beat my chest, and say, yeah, there's plenty of that to come too. So, but going forwards, yeah, I think we're going to carry on with the R&D, and we're going to carry on making connections with other companies that we can help with our natural fiber composites, any kind of design or tooling solutions. I mean, one of our tooling solutions, for example, is we're talking to a customer at the moment who wants to de-skill a process. And our molding solution that we use for the NFCs actually de-skills adequately what it was that they were trying to do. So they're going to take on the process initially for that, but then obviously gives them the options of working with NFCs as well as carbons. So that'll be quite an interesting project to take through to fruition. You know, unfortunately, I'm under NDAs for a lot of stuff, so I can't name drop anything, which is another reason why I had to avoid the "who's my best customer" question. So so
that's fine. That is fine. No words whatsoever. And last but not least, I was going to ask you, I mean, if anybody, I mean, if an 18-year-old would like to start their own business, okay, what advice would you give them?
Go and get some real life experience first, maybe.
Okay.
Unless you've got a solid idea that somebody else, and you've got somebody behind you with that experience that can direct you. 18 years old. I mean, aren't there? There are entrepreneurs out there that have started at 18 and they're just absolutely nuts. But from my point of view, especially in my experience, the industrial experience that I gained prior to starting my own business was massively beneficial, and just helped you be able to know exactly how things are done and the way things are built and put together, and the processes that are involved. All of that stuff is golden knowledge before trying to do it on your own. I was lucky enough to do a lot of that while I was still in education, so I was able to start quite young. But I'd still say 18 in what I'm doing is too young. But that's not to put them off. That's just to say, look, you know, put people around you.
Yes, yes.
Another thing that I have learned more recently, actually, is that, you know, being the driving factor of your business is one thing, but don't be the only skill. So if I had more people around me with my skills, then I would be able to do a lot more sooner.
Yeah.
At 18 years old, if you do want to start out and go for it yourself, put the right people around you.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Great. Well, I tell you what, Colin, thank you so much. That just concludes the interview, but I will say thank you. Very, very inspiring. Really appreciate this. And
Cool.
yes, and I just wish you all the best for the future on that.